trying to get my YouTube thing down. Let's get a little more light here. Hold on a second. I think that's better. Anyways, hold on a second. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, this was been a rough week with the passing of Jeff Beck. I did a little tribute video. He was amazing, and let me see if I can turn this thing so you can see my face a little better. Anyways, he was an amazing guitarist, and just from what I understand, just an amazing human being too. I didn't know him. I never met him. But anyways, um, I thought what I'd do today is I watch Rick Beato a lot, and actually I've been watching Rick since he started. I think I remember him when he had under 100 subscribers, and it's been great to see somebody like him do do something really incredible and worthwhile. All the music he teaches and all his wisdom of music and study and things like that, and just being a cool guy. So I really appreciate watching Rick. But I thought he was talking about some basic music theory. I think a video today, and he hadn't gone on and done something in a while, and so he started with the basics, learning the circle of fifths and fourths, and why that's probably the most essential thing to learn in basic music theory. I agree, because there's the whole relationship of key center and in the working of the functioning chords and cadences. Cadences meaning just there's 7 notes in a scale, so each key center has 7 notes in it, and the 8th note is the octave, and it starts over again. So there's actually 12 notes in music. If you go chromatically up the scale, you start on C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and back to C. It's a total of 12 notes, meaning that there's 12 keys. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about is, because I'm trying to teach music theory as well, and at the same time make it creative, so you can use it if you're a songwriter or you're just somebody who likes to mess around with music and want to know a little bit more. There's ways that you use this stuff creatively, and I tend to do that with studying composition and things like that. Music theory is a creative tool. It's not just this scientific thing or mathematical thing, or just a head full of information. It's not just that. It's partly a little of that, but it's mostly about things being relative to one another. One thing is always relative to another in music. It's not just this happenstance of a bunch of just things thrown together. Everything's related. So if you talk about the circle of fifths and the circle of fourths, I'll give you an idea of what I mean. So if you're in the key of C, the key of C has no sharps or flats. On the piano, it's all the white keys. So each one of these notes, these 7 notes, has a chord built off it. So there's 7 notes, there's 7 chords. There's the defining part of the chord is whether it's major or minor. How that works in each key center is your 1 chord, or your tonic, is always a major chord. Your 4 chord is always a major chord, and your 5 chord is always a major chord. So that means all the rest of them are minor. Now, that means that the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 6 chord, and the 7 chord are minor. Now, the 7 chord is minor, but it's a different type of minor. It's called a diminished or minor flat 5, however you want to look at it. But it still is minor, and the 7 chord is the only one that's a different minor than the rest of them. So the way that you could make something creative is just in the circle of fifths is if you just played through the circle of fifths. C is the first key, right? Now the next key is up a fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's G, right? So we have C and G. That's our first, right? Now we want to find out what our next fifth is, or next circle of fifth thing following the relative pattern. And that's up a fifth from G. G, A, B, C, D. So now we have C, G, and D, right? Okay, and then we go on from there. So up a fifth from D is A, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Right? Okay. So that's A. And then up a fifth from A is E, right? And so on and so forth. So here, you could make something creative out of that, right? So we'll just do what we just learned. See? Okay, so now if we go on further, so there's from E, it goes to B, right? And from B, it goes to F sharp, right? And from F sharp, it goes to what? C sharp, right? And from C sharp, that's where it kind of ends. So basically, it goes in the wheel here. It ends actually at F sharp, right? Because now it has a thing, if you go the other way, the circle of fourths, it's everything up a fourth, right? So starting on C, it's C to F. From F, it's to B flat. From B flat, it's to E flat. And from E flat, it's to A flat. From A flat, it's to D flat. And to D flat, it's to G flat. And G flat is the same as F sharp. So it met at this point. And the circle of fifths goes clockwise. Circle of fourths goes counterclockwise, and they meet down at F sharp and G flat. That's called enharmonic. When the note is the same note, it's called something different, but it's the same note. It's called enharmonic in music. So here we can make something out of that in the circle of fifths. So here we are, C. G flat. Now maybe we shift down to G. Now we're in the circle of fifths. G flat again, right? Now, what's interesting is, and this gets a little more in depth with music theory, but with harmony, you know, there's a thing when you get a little more sophisticated with your harmony, where we ended at G flat and F sharp. Now, in relationship to C, that's a tritone, so, which is kind of interesting. You have this thing happening. Right? So, all right, so let's get back to learning how we understand the circle of fifths and the circle of fourths. So let's go to the key of C. Now, this is something Rick was talking about. So the key of C has no sharps or flats. There's a couple different little tricks and systems you can use to, at first, to understand how you learn how many sharps and how are in your, we're doing the circle of fifths, how many sharps are in each key, and then doing the circle of fourths, how many flats are in each key. So if we start with the key of C, one of the things that I remember doing is we want to find out what key has your first sharp in it. So you go up a fifth from C, and that's G. The key of G has your first sharp in it. What is the sharp? Just go a half step down from G. That's your first sharp, right? It's F sharp. So the key of G has one sharp, F sharp, right? So now you can run your scale. Right? So now we're in the key of G. We want to find out which key has two sharps in it. So we go up a fifth from G, and that's D. The key of D has two sharps in it. We already know what one of the sharps are. It's F sharp. The second sharp is a half step down from D, which is C sharp. So the key of D has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp, right? So we run the scale there. Now we're in the key of D, right? We want to find out what key has three sharps in it, right? So we go up a fifth from D. That's A. The key of A has three sharps in it. We already know what two of the sharps are. It's F sharp, C sharp, and then the third sharp is a half step down from A, G sharp, right? Now we run that scale. The key of A has three sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. We want to find out what key has four sharps in it. We go up a fifth from A, and that's E. The key of E has four sharps in it. We already know what three of the sharps are, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And your fourth sharp is a half step down from E. You see the little system here? So that's how you figure out the circle of fifths. Now, go back to the circle fourths. One of the things I used to do, it's a little trickier to find this little tricky game to figure it out at first. So the key of C has no sharps or flats, right? We want to find out what key has your first flat in it. So we go up a fourth from C, right? That's F. So the key of F has one flat. What is it? Well, how you figure it out is you just go up a fourth from the note you're at, which is F. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's B. So it's got to be B flat, right? So the key of F has one flat in it, B flat. So we run the scale. So that's F, right? So now we're going to go to find out what key has two flats in it. So we go up a fourth from F. That's B flat. We already know that it has a flat. That's B flat, right? So we want to find out what our second flat is. It's B flat and go up a fourth from B flat. B flat, C, D, E flat. So the key of B flat has two flats, B flat and E flat. It's moving in fourths, right? So now we're in the key of E flat, right? We want to find out that key of E flat has three flats in it, right? So we want to find out what those are. So we already know what two of the flats are. It's B flat and E flat. So we want to find out what our third flat is. So go up a fourth from E flat. E flat, F, G, A, flat. So key of E flat has three flats. B flat, B flat, E flat, and A flat. So that's moving in fourths, right? Right? So now we want to find out what key has four flats in it. So we go up a fourth from E flat. That's A flat. We already know what three of the flats are. You get it? So it's B flat, E flat, A flat, and move up a fourth from A flat. That's D flat. So the key of A flat has four flats. B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. Okay? And that's how you figure it out. One goes clockwise. That's the circle of fifths that deals with sharps. And the circle of fourths goes counterclockwise. It deals with flats. Okay? Now, we're going to go back to the key of C, no sharps or flats. We want to build the chord system. So remember we were talking about your major chords and minor chords. There's 7 notes in the key center, right? And that makes up the scale. So 7 notes, that means there's 7 chords. Your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord are major chords, which are, happy chords, right? And by the way, your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord make up about, I would say about, 90% or maybe 80% of most functioning things in music. They revolve around those 3 chords and some variations of those chords. And what I mean variations is your 1 chord, your 4 chord, your 5 chord have substitutions of each one of those chords. So meaning that, the rest of the chords, your minor chords, can be looked at as substitution of those 3 chords. Like your C chord is your 6 minor chord, could be that, or your 3 minor. And with your 4 chord, it could be your 2 minor, right? Because it makes up half of those notes in the chord. Your 5 chords like your 3 minor, right? Or it even functions off part of your 7 chord, your diminished chord, right? Or minor flat 5, right? So now how that gets used is if you're a songwriter and you're working on a song and you find out that let's figure out a song to use. Okay, yeah, Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace. How sweet. That's your 4 chord. 4 to the 1, to the 1, to the 1, to the 5, to the 1, to the 4, to the 1, to the 1, to the 5, to the 1. So now you can use some substitutions. Here's the substitutions. The 1, 2. Okay, now here's something where you can use slash chords, or it's different than polychords, but where you can use the chord with something in the bass. So if a C chord is made up of C, E, and G, so I can use any one of those notes in my bass when I'm playing that chord. So I can play on the C, or I can play with the E in the bass. That's a functioning part of reharmonization or chord substitution, right? Or sidestepping or things like that. So, Amazing Grace, right? To the 4, to the 1, to the 6 minor, to the 2, to the 5, right? To the 1, to the 1 with the 3 in the bass, to the 4, 5, 6 minor, to the 2, to the 5, to the 1, 4, 1, right? So, what's another way you can do it? Rising grace. How about that? It's amazing to the 6, the 3 minor, to the 4, 5, 1. Walk down to the 6, 6, to the 1 with the G in the bass, to the 5, to the 1, to the 1 with the 3 in the bass, to the 4, 5, 6 minor. And here's a 2 chord, to the 2, to the 5, to the 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so that's, I didn't even use anything but all the white keys of the key of C. There's different ways that you can really, reharmonize this song and use different chord substitutions. You can make these things dominant chords. So instead of the 2 chord being a minor chord, I can temporarily make it a dominant chord, a major chord with a flatted 7th. So like Amazing Grace. Now my 1 chord has a dominant on it, has a 7th on it. To the 4, that also has a 7th. To the 1, right? To the 6 minor. To the 1, to the 5. To the 1 dominant, to the 1 dominant with the 3 in the bass, to the 4, 5, 1, and then move up to the 2 dominant, to the 5, to the 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's you're basically within the key center and you're using the chord system, you know, your 1, 4, and 5. There's those substitution chords, or all the rest of the chords, the 2 minor, the 3 minor, the 6 minor, and the 7 diminished, which, by the way, I did use a 7 diminished on my walk down. Right? 1, that's the 8, to the 7, to the 6, to the 5, to the 4, to the 5, to the 1. Walking back up to the 1, to the 6 minor, to the 1, right? And then I went to the 2 chord, I made it a dominant, right? Instead of minor. That's minor, this is dominant. Now also, that's just learning the basic system, number system for your chords. There's always a bunch of other things you can do. Some of these chords you can make sus chords. So you have, there's a It can also function, instead of you just staying on the chord, you can use the sus. You move your triads around. Pedal point, where you have the note in the bass and you keep that droning. It's called a pedal. And then you move, you shift to the other chords. There's a tritone sub, right? There's another tritone sub. There's another tritone sub. Right? So remember how I was talking about the F sharp and the G flat in relation to C? So if I'm going to my 4 chord, I can go up a half step above it before I come down to it, right? And the chord I'm approaching, I can come from a half step up, right? I mean, if I did that with my circle of fourths, so it's C to F to B flat to E flat to A flat to D flat to G flat. So it'll sound kind of funny, but like, here's C, tritone sub, to F, to B flat, right? To E flat, to A flat. It's all tritone sub, right? To D flat, right? And here we are again. The point being is you can use these things for part of your creativity. And not only do they help you getting out of a jam sometimes because you might be running out of ideas, they come to great use knowing some theory, because based on some of this stuff, you have choices, So, yeah. So, on that note, I will play a little bit and take you out with a little bit of creative playing. Okay. These are fourth shapes. Open fourths, closed fourths. What that means is they're all a fourth apart. Hope that helps.